You finish your workout shirt soaked. You step on the scale a whole kilo lighter. Fat gone for good, right? Hold on. Your body just pulled off a magic trick. Don't feel silly for believing it. The scale really did drop. The number isn't lying. The trick is that we misread what actually vanished. So we've got a case. Someone's been impersonating melted fat to fool you. The body detective takes it on file open, the sweat and the lying scale. The whole case comes down to one question. When you sweat through your shirt, what actually leaves your body, and is any of it fat? The first clue is sitting right on the scale you just stepped off. That number is real, but it's telling you the wrong story. This belief is everywhere. People jogging in rain jackets at noon. People strapping on hot waist trimmers. People sitting in saunas waiting for the fat to melt out. Every time the scale dips, the belief gets stronger. Sweatier means harder, means more fat burned. Sounds so reasonable that nobody stops to question it. It sounds harmless, but this belief pushes people toward the wrong workout, sometimes squeezing out so much water they get dizzy while the fat stays right where it was. Maybe you've been the victim here, layering up to sweat more, celebrating the drop, then feeling let down when it all came back the next day. The detective isn't here to judge you, just to hand back the truth, so next time you know exactly what you're burning and what's only evaporating. Before we chase clues, let's be fair, sweating isn't bad. It's a brilliant survival skill your body has. It just doesn't do the job you think it does. Why bother separating the two? Because if you aim at sweat, you're chasing something that evaporates and comes right back. Aim at the right thing, and your effort actually sticks. This case has two suspects people keep mixing up. One's named Sweat, one's named Fat. They look similar in our heads, but their real identities couldn't be further apart. First, suspect Sweat. Clear, salty, quick to vanish. It shows up at the scene every time you exercise, so it's easy to blame. But being at the scene doesn't make you the culprit. Second, suspect Fat. Quiet, rarely seen, and here's the strange part. It escapes through an exit. Almost nobody's watching. We'll find that exit later. The method's simple and fair. We ask what sweat is made of, what the scale actually lost, then trace where fat really goes. Every step needs evidence. Honest heads up, some parts here are still debated, like whether sweating really flushes toxins. We won't pretend to be sure where the science isn't. The title asks it straight. Does sweating more burn more fat? By the end we'll answer it straight with real numbers, no dodging to something else. Enough scene setting. Time for the first clue, and it's hiding in the last place you'd look, just under your skin, where sweat gets made. So who orders the sweat glands to fire? No fat cell does. It's a tiny control room in your brain, and it couldn't care less whether you want to lose weight. That control room is called the hypothalamus. It does one job: keep your body temperature in a safe zone. Overheat, and it flips on the cooling fan, which is sweat. The cooling trick is clever. Sweat rises to the skin, then evaporates. As it evaporates, it carries heat away, leaving cooler skin behind. Sweat's job ends right there. Watch this part closely. The whole process is about cooling down. Not a single step touches fat breakdown. Sweat is an air conditioner, not a furnace. Now let's open up suspect number one and look inside. What's sweat made of? Almost all water, plus a little salt and minerals like sodium and potassium. Search all you want, no fat in there. So why does the scale still drop? Here's the heart of the trick. You just lost water, and water is heavy. Lose half a liter, and the scale falls half a kilo fast, obvious, but it's only water. And because it's just water, it comes right back. Drink a glass, eat a meal, the scale returns within hours. Fat doesn't do this leaves and returns thing. Wrestlers and boxers know this game cold. Before weigh-ins, they sweat out water to drop weight fast, then drink it all back right after. Not one of them thinks they just burned fat. To be fair, losing a lot of water isn't totally meaningless. It does signal you got hot and worked hard. It just can't measure fat, and pushing it too far does more harm than good. The next clue shakes the whole belief. How much you sweat varies wildly from person to person. Some soak through at the slightest effort. Others stay dry through a hard session. Why such a gap? The number of sweat glands is set by your genes, plus temperature, humidity, and how hydrated you are. None of it has anything to do with how much fat you're burning. Same workout, but in a humid room, you'll end up far wetter. The sweat can't evaporate, so it just pools on you. You look drippier, but you don't burn one extra bit of fat. Now flip it, cross-country, skiing in the cold, you barely sweat a drop, yet you burn a ton of energy. Little sweat, lots of calories. The exact opposite of the belief. In the extreme case, sitting still in a sauna, sweat pours off you, but you're barely moving, so the energy you burn is tiny. Maximum sweat, minimum fat burn. Put the three clues together. Cold burns a lot while staying dry. Sauna soaks you while burning little. First conclusions, clear sweat is not a gauge for how much fat you burn. Here's where a lot of people fall out of their chairs. Well-trained people often sweat sooner and more than sedentary folks. Sounds backwards, but there's a solid reason. The reason: a trained body learns to cool ahead of time. It switches sweat on at a lower core temperature, so it never lets itself overheat. Early sweat is a sign of a top-tier cooling system, not a weak one. So what does that mean? The person next to you, drenched in sweat, might just be fitter than you, not better at burning fat. Sweat tells a story about cooling ability, not about fat. On the other side, people with more body fat often sweat more too. The fat layer traps heat, so the body has to work harder to cool down. Same action, different sweat, and still no readout of fat actually burning. Let's close suspect sweat's file for now. Its only job is cooling. It's made of water and salt, and its amount depends on genes, weather, and fitness. It was at the scene, but it never touched the fat. But if sweat's innocent, then when you really do lose fat, where does that fat go? It doesn't evaporate through your skin. It doesn't turn into energy and disappear. Matter has to go somewhere. There's an iron law of nature here. Matter doesn't just vanish. Fat is built from atoms, specifically carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. For fat to leave, those atoms have to exit your body through some door. One more honest note: even a lot of trainers and doctors used to get this wrong. They figured fat just turns into energy, and that's that. A study back in 2014 pointed out exactly this common misconception. So where's fat's escape hatch? Not your pores. Not the bathroom the way you'd think. It's a door you open and close all day long without ever noticing. A small hint before the evidence stage: that door is right on your face, and you just used it to read this sentence. We'll open it later with a number that'll floor you. Before we compare the evidence, let's revisit the case map. Sweat is a cooler. The scale drop is water loss, and fat made of atoms has to leave by its own exit. Now we go prove each part with real numbers. There's a companion rumor: sweat it out to detox. The truth is simple. Your liver and kidneys are the body's main filters. Sweat carries a few trace substances, but in amounts far too small to call detoxing. Here the detective stops. To be honest, a few small studies have looked at whether some heavy metals leave through sweat, and the results aren't settled. So we leave it open and don't inflate it into miracle detox. Back to the main thread. The golden question still stands: does sweating more burn more fat? By now you've seen sweat is innocent. What's left is to catch red-handed where fat actually escapes. The evidence coming up has a number that makes people read it twice. It tells us that most of the fat you lose leaves your body in a way almost nobody guesses. Take a deep breath. Seriously breathe in, then out. Because that breath you just took is the single biggest clue in the whole case. Next part, we open it up. All right, open the door. Fat's secret exit isn't your skin, and it isn't sweat. It's your two lungs. That's right, most of the fat you lose leaves your body through your breath. Hard to believe, right? But every time you exhale, a little carbon quietly leaves you riding out on carbon dioxide. You've been breathing fat out all day without ever realizing it. But wait, fat is a soft lump under your skin, and breath is invisible. How does one become the other? This is the scene we need to reconstruct atom by atom. Look closely at the fat. Its molecules, called triglycerides, built from exactly three kinds of atoms. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Just those three pieces, nothing mysterious. To take that fat apart, the body has to unlock those atoms through a reaction called oxidation. And the key to that reaction is oxygen, the stuff you're breathing in non-stop. You breathe in oxygen, it rushes in and latches onto the fat's atoms. The dismantling begins, old bonds snap, and the atoms get rearranged into something else. Once rearranged, the fat becomes exactly two things: carbon dioxide and water. No energy evaporating, no fat melting out through skin, just these two very ordinary products. That carbon dioxide travels through your blood to your lungs, and when you exhale it flies off into the air and vanishes. That's fat's main exit, no fuss, no one watching on every single breath. Remember the furnace image. Now it fits for real. Fat is the firewood. Oxygen is the draft. And the furnace's smoke is the invisible carbon dioxide you exhale. It's just smoke your eyes can't see. Scientists put it bluntly when it comes to weight loss. Your lungs are the main excretory organ. Not sweat, not urine. It's your two lungs that usher most of the fat out of you. And here's the number that makes you read twice. When 10 kilograms of fat are fully burned, 8.4 kilograms of it leave your body as exhaled gas. 8.4 kilograms gone through your breath. And the rest, 1.6 kilograms, turns into water. That's it. 10 kilograms of fat, almost all of it, via breath, a little as water, and not one bit drips out as fat itself. At 1.6 kilograms of water leaves through several routes: urine, breath, tears, and yes, a little through sweat. This is where we have to be honest about sweat. So saying sweat is completely unrelated would be overstating it. It does carry a tiny sliver of that water. But note that's byproduct water made after the fat was burned, not fat itself dissolving out. The crux is the direction of cause. Fat burns first, then byproduct water comes out, some of it as sweat. It's not that you sweat first and pull fat out after. Sweat stands at the end of the line, not the front. So forcing out more sweat doesn't extract more fat. The bottleneck is the oxidation reaction. It only runs when your body actually needs energy and has enough oxygen. Cranking the sweat faucet open burns nothing extra. One fun detail: the oxygen you have to breathe in to burn that fat weighs nearly 3 times the fat itself. Losing weight, it turns out, is something you mostly do by breathing. To sum up, cleanly, fat is the fuel. Oxygen is the air feeding the fire, and carbon dioxide and water are the exhaust. And most of that exhaust leaves by the route you'd least expect, your mouth and nose. Here's the intriguing takeaway: someone panting after real effort is expelling fat more properly than someone just dripping sweat in a sauna. Heavy breathing is closer to the truth than a soaked shirt. But don't start hyperventilating to lose weight. Just breathing fast doesn't burn extra fat. Heavy breathing is a consequence of muscles actually needing energy. The real lever is energy demand, not your breathing rate. So, what's the real engine of fat loss? Simple but hard: burn more energy than you take in steadily over time. When that shortfall keeps up, the body finally dips into its fat stores to cover it. Think of fat as a reserve fuel tank, not an enemy. The body stores it to use when food runs short. To draw it down, you have to create enough steady shortfalls that the body agrees to open the tank. 2 hands do this work. Movement raises the energy you burn, and eating controls the energy coming in. Sweat isn't in the equation, it's just vapor rising off to the side. What decides how much you burn is the intensity and duration of your movement, how hard your heart works, how long you keep it up, not how wet your shirt got. Those two can have nothing to do with each other. Here's the mental trap of the whole case: sweat often shows up at the same time. You're hot and working hard, so it looks like the cause, but appearing together isn't causing each other. Correlation is not causation. Here's a clean example: 2 people cycling at the same intensity. One in a stuffy, humid room, dripping wet. one in an air-conditioned room, bone dry. They burn the exact same calories, but their sweat couldn't be more different. Recall the scale after sweating, the number drops, then bounces back within hours. That's water. But when you truly lose fat, the number drifts down slowly over weeks and stays. Two completely different kinds of drop. So if you want to know whether you've really lost fat, don't look at the scale right after a workout. Watch the trend over weeks. Watch your clothes loosen. Watch your stamina climb. That's the real evidence, not a puddle of sweat. One honest thing a lot of people don't want to hear. The calories burned in a workout are often smaller than we imagine, so what you eat carries a big share. Not to discourage you, just to point your effort where it counts. Stack the two together. Sweat doesn't measure fat, and exercise burns less than we think, so using a puddle of sweat as your progress meter is doubly wrong, looking at the wrong thing and then inflating it. Now let's revisit the miracle gear with clearer eyes. Plastic raincoats and sauna suits seal you up so sweat can't evaporate, making you wetter and hotter. But the fat-burning mechanism stays exactly still. The result is the same scale trick. You lose more water, the number drops further, you feel happier, then you drink it back and it returns. Not 1 gram of fat was ever squeezed out of you through that sealed layer. Waist trimmers run the same play. They heat and dampen your belly locally, so that area loses water fast. Your belly looks trimmer for a moment from water loss, not from fat leaving that spot. Here's a hard truth. The ad industry hates you can't sweat off fat from one specific area. Fat comes off the whole body according to your overall energy shortfall. It doesn't take orders from a belt around your belly. So why does the mirror show a flatter belly after a hot workout? Because the water under your skin dipped temporarily. Drink water, eat dinner, it refills. That flatness is a few-hour illusion. To be fair about the risks, too, forcing out too much sweat in sealed gear can leave you dehydrated, dizzy, even overheated, because your body can't cool itself when sweat can't evaporate. This part genuinely calls for caution. And to be completely fair, hot yoga isn't a scam. It builds flexibility, focus, and it's real exercise. Only one piece is wrong, the idea that more sweat means more fat burned. That part is the illusion. And here's an honest sliver of truth. Exercising in heat can push your heart rate higher and make a session feel harder, so there is a bit of real training stimulus. It just comes from the heat and the effort, not from the sweat drops. The verdict on the miracle gear: none of it extracts fat. At best, it makes you lose water you'll drink right back. At worst, it overheats you by blocking your body's cooling. If a piece of gear gets you moving more or enjoying it more, use it, but grade it by how much you move, not how wet you get. Movement burns. Sweat only evaporates. Step back and take in the whole clue board. Sweat a cooling system, all water and salt. Fat exits mostly through breath, a little as water. Two entirely separate life paths that just happen to cross when you exercise. This whole belief was born from a classic detective mistake, blaming whoever's always at the scene. Sweat got wrongly arrested just because it shows up every time you exert yourself. The real culprit is far quieter. 3 pieces of evidence line up. Cold burns a lot while staying dry. Fit people sweat sooner, and weight cutters get it all back the moment they drink. All 3.1-way sweat doesn't measure fat. If you take home just one line, make it: this sweat travels with effort, but it doesn't create fat loss. Traveling together and causing each other are entirely different things. Mixing them up is the root of the whole rumor. Let's be fair to the rumor, it didn't come from nowhere. A hard session often does come with lots of sweat, so sweat isn't a meaningless signal. It just isn't a ruler. It can accompany, but it can't measure. And to be honest, all the way, even now, science has no way to look at sweat and read off how much fat you burned today. That gauge doesn't exist. Anyone selling you that gauge is selling an illusion. So the title's answer is taking shape. Sweating more does not mean burning more fat. They can travel together, but the amount of sweat doesn't tell you the amount of fat. In the final part, the detective delivers a clean verdict. But don't close the file yet. The truth here has layers. There's something sweat can honestly tell you, just not about fat. In the next part, we'll turn over that final layer. The detective pulls a chair up to the board and gathers every clue into one thread. The mechanism's clear. The numbers are in the right suspects identified. What's left is to tell you the full truth, including the pleasant surprise at the end. So, in the end, what does sweat honestly tell you if not about fat? The answer will make you see the next drop of sweat in a completely different light. Let's step into the truth. Here's the verdict. Sweating more does not burn more fat. Sweat cools your body. Fat leaves mostly through your breath. Two different jobs that just happen to share one workout. But this case has layers, and here's the loveliest one. Sweat was never lying to you. It was just telling a different story, the one we kept mishearing as a story about fat. So, what does sweat actually tell you? It tells you your body is cooling itself beautifully. Every drop is proof your thermostat is running smoothly, a sign of health, not of fat melting. It also tells you that you just got warmer, maybe from effort, maybe from the heat, maybe both. That's real useful information, just about temperature, not about your weight. And there's a message from sweat few people hear. It's reminding you to drink. Every drop leaving is water that needs replacing. Ignore that reminder, and you get dizzy and drained, not extra fat burned. Put together, sweat is an honest signal, just about heat and water, not fat. We blamed it all this time for answering the wrong question. Ask it the right one, and it's a trustworthy friend. And the true culprit behind fat loss, if we must name one, is a steady energy shortfall powered by oxygen cleared out through breath. That one is quiet, slow, no spectacle, but it's the one actually doing the work. One more honest beat. Energy shortfall looks tidy on the board, but the real body is messier. Hormones, sleep, and stress all crowd in. Nobody loses fat by one clean equation. But don't let the complexity paralyze you. The big frame still holds. Move more. Eat with awareness. Be patient across weeks. The rest is fine-tuning, not some hidden secret. Before the prescription, the detective wants to lift a weight off your shoulders if you've ever felt guilty for working out without sweating. Set that feeling down. You weren't lazy, you just misread one signal. Now the prescription, no scare tactics, just what genuinely works. Prescription number 1, and nearly the whole of it: grade your workout by movement, not by how wet your shirt is. What does that look like? Track intensity and duration. Did your heart rate climb? Can you hold it longer than last week? Did you add one more set, one more minute, one more flight of stairs? That's what measures progress. Prescription 2, don't judge the whole journey by the scale right after a workout. Weigh at the same time of day a few times a week and read the multi-week trend. Don't let the post-sweat number fool you again. Prescription 3, pick movement you can sustain, not the kind that soaks you most. Brisk walking, cycling, cool water, swimming. Swimming shows almost no sweat yet burns plenty. Consistency wins. Prescription 4, and one of the most important: mind your plate. Since workouts often burn less than we think, eating with awareness, enough protein, plenty of vegetables, less liquid sugar, often creates a bigger energy shortfall than hours of hot exercise. Prescription 5, drink enough water, especially in the heat. This is where sweat's message really is worth heeding. The more it flows, the more you replace. Staying hydrated helps you train stronger, think clearer, and skip pointless dizzy spells. A gentle but sincere caution: if you're using sealed gear or sweatsuits to cut weight fast before an event, be careful. Heavy water loss can bring dizziness, cramps, overheating. Water replaced is fine. Water forced out is risky. And this must be said plainly: this video is general information, not medical advice. If you have an underlying condition, are losing weight under medical guidance, or notice anything unusual, talk to your doctor about your specific situation. This video is general information, not medical advice. Please talk to your doctor for a diagnosis and treatment that fit your situation. The detective says this not as a formality, but out of real respect for your one particular body. Now let's return to where it all began. The bathroom scale after your workout, the number a kilo lighter. Do you still think that was fat melting away? Now you know that 1 kilo is water that returns after dinner. The thing actually worth celebrating hides elsewhere in the heavy breath while you pushed hard in the trend line, drifting down across weeks. Next time you step off the scale drenched in sweat, you'll smile instead of fooling yourself. You know what that number is, you know where fat goes, and you know where to look for real progress. The whole case in one line: sweating doesn't burn fat, it just cools you. Fat leaves quietly, mostly with each breath. You've been burning it all along without ever knowing. The case of the sweat and the lying scale is officially closed. The victim you gets back the truth about your own body. And this time the truth is firmly on your side. If this investigation helped you see a drop of sweat with fresh eyes, let the detective keep taking on other cases inside your own body. Countless misunderstandings are still waiting to be cleared. Before we fully close, the detective leaves you 3 short lines to keep. 1, sweat cools, it doesn't burn fat. Write it on your bathroom mirror if you need to, right next to the scale that fooled you. 2, fat leaves, mostly through breath, not skin. So heavy breathing during effort is more trustworthy than a puddle of sweat. 3, measure progress in weeks, in clothes, in stamina, not in how wet your shirt is. Those 3 lines stand guard for you. So next time someone sells you a sweat off the fat suit or a burn belly fat belt, you'll smile and walk past. You've already got the evidence in hand. Thank you for walking this whole case with the detective. Investigating your own body is never a small thing. It's how you reclaim the right to understand yourself, one clue at a time. And if you'd like the detective to crack another body rumor, collagen, the 8-hour sleep rule, detox water, or anything you've always wondered about, leave that case for us. The next file could be yours. Before you go, the detective clicks one old clue into place. Remember the secret door on your face from the start of the case. Now you know it was your nose and mouth, fat's true exit. So next workout, try to notice your breath for a beat. That exhale, invisible, odorless, is carrying off little pieces of exactly what you want to release. Quietly beautiful, isn't it? And sweat, just let it flow and greet it like a friend bringing news. It says, I'm keeping you cool, don't forget to drink. That's all it says, and that's kind enough. The whole story is really this simple. You don't need to sweat more. You need to move more consistently, eat with more awareness, and give your body enough time. The rest, let your breath handle. So the file closes, but the understanding stays with you. From today, every drop of sweat and every breath tells you its own true story, and you at last know how to listen. If this episode untied a knot in your head, save it to remember and send it to someone still jogging in sealed gear at noon, believing sweat burns fat. One well-timed clue might save them a dizzy spell. The body detective will be back with the magnifying glass new files and one unchanging promise as gripping as a mystery to tell, but every line a truth a kind person would dare tell their own family. Remember, sweating more doesn't mean burning more fat, it just means you're being cooled kindly, and the fat, it's still quietly leaving right there in your very next breath. One last thing to carry with you, be kind to your body. It isn't lazy, and it hasn't betrayed you, it's just doing its honest job of survival, and now you understand it a little better. See you at the next case, right inside your own body. Until then, breathe in deep, breathe out easy, and trust that your body is smarter than any rumor. And if right now, reading these lines, you found yourself noticing your own breathing, then yes, that's it. You just caught your body quietly at work this very moment. Your body doesn't need you to force out sweat to prove anything. It just needs you to understand it, care for it steadily, and be patient. That's the best gift you can give it back. So next workout, shed the sealed layers, open a window to the cool air, and let your body cool the way it's good at. You'll train longer and stronger, and that's what actually burns fat. The detective believes in you. You just upgraded how you see your body from trusting rumors to reading evidence. That's a skill that stays with you for life. through every health rumor to come. Now it's your turn to hold the magnifying glass. Next time you hear a sweat melts fat promise, ask the questions the detective taught you. Where's the evidence? Which way does fat leave? And you'll crack the case yourself. Thank you for staying to the final minute. Every minute you spend understanding your body is a minute. No one can sell you fear or magic anymore. That's a quiet but big victory. If you'd like the detective on the next case, drop the rumor that puzzles you most below. Whichever gets named most, the detective opens that file first. Your body still holds plenty of mysteries to solve. Before you close the screen, try one small thing. Take a sip of water right now. Not to lose weight, just to care for the body that walked with you through this whole case. It deserves it. And remember, every time you exhale from now on, it's not just breath. It's how your body quietly clears away what it no longer needs. Diligent, honest needing, not a single drop of sweat to prove it. The case closes, but your body keeps telling its story with every breath, every drop of sweat, every day. From today, you know how to listen properly. The Body Detective signing off. See you at the next case.